Hello and welcome to the 905er podcast. My name is Roland Tanner.
I am Joel McLeod.
And it's a Tuesday 905 roundup this week. And a couple of stories that have been in the newspapers of the last few days. Starting off with Halton District School Board and, well, that story that just won't go away. Joel, what's the latest?
I guess in case you haven't been paying attention, a brief history for those, so we're all on the same page. So last year, a photo surfaced in the media of a teacher, a shop teacher at Oakville Trafalgar School, who was an identified trans woman teacher who was spotted wearing very large fake breasts in the shop class, and naturally it caught the attention of a large swath of the population, large swath of the media. Lots of protests happened because of it, and even drew the attention of the Freedom Convoy. I don't know what you call it. The convoy people showed up to protest and whatnot outside the school, and it ultimately led to, bizarrely enough, the Halton District School Board saying, no, we can't do anything about it because there's no dress code, to now saying, okay, now we're going to implement a dress code. And along the way have seemingly just made a mess of the entire process from start to finish. So the last week at a board meeting, the board came up with a tentative policy, dress code policy, which a lot of critics, a lot of parents were saying this is not a concrete policy. It was one person said basically it's a word salad with no teeth, no power, and whatnot. And the plan is for this policy to go back to the development stage, and it'll be brought forward at a later meeting to be voted on by the board. But basically, what we're kind of puzzled at is, like, why are we even at this stage? This should be, in my opinion at least, this really should have been an open and shut case of just saying, yeah, we don't have a dress code, our bad, okay, we'll develop one. Same dress code for the students is now applied to teachers, or something akin to that. And professional wear, professional practical clothing for the teachers at the school, and that's it. Open and shut case, and we move on. Instead, this has been like 6 months now, or I'm estimating, but that 6 months of just this bizarre self-inflicted wounds on the Halton District School Board that, quite frankly, I'm puzzled as to why. I am puzzled as to why we're talking about this at all.
Yeah, I'm puzzled why we're talking about this at all. I hate this story.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
I mean, it's just, there's just no good side to it. I think, and we were talking about this before we came on, and we're in sort of disagreement about it. And I'm willing to say I don't know for sure. My feeling has been for a while that it's not meant to be the job of the in the way that our system is set up. The school board, which, yes, is the employer of teachers and manages the schools. There's the Ministry of Education, which oversees the whole thing. There are the unions who represent teachers' interests with their employer, with the ministry, and with any other body. And there's the Ontario College of Teachers, which is kind of standards and disciplinary entity. It's meant to regulate standards, and it's meant to, if someone does something completely inappropriate, a teacher who is teaching inappropriate things or behaving inappropriately towards students, that would go to the Ontario College of Students. So I kind of feel that they're really, everybody's looking at the school boards to fix this issue. And well, for a number of reasons, I think the school board, it's not really their job. I mean, it's kind of sort of their job, but I don't really think it's their job. And I think this is why they come out with something completely ineffectual, because they're bound by legislation, by collective bargaining, by all kinds of other things that they don't have power over. So they come up with something saying what they can do, which is like, oh, we'd really like it if people didn't wear crazy things to teach, which is about as strong as they can probably put it, is my feeling. I could be wrong.
I'm going to disagree with you, because I don't think this is the Ontario College of Teachers isn't the governing body here. They would license a teacher, and you can go, if a teacher decided to stop teaching facts, like the example I came up with is, in history, if a teacher decided to go like the Ernst Sundel route and pronounce and say like the Holocaust wasn't as bad as it was, or that the Holocaust didn't happen at all, which it did. Then you take that teacher to the Ontario College of Teachers, said they cannot have a license to teach in Ontario schools anymore, and that's what they would govern. If you start teaching, E does not equal MC squared, so well, no, it does. Like, why? Or if you're playing favorites to one student over another, you could go and try and discipline that way. But in terms of the actual employment standard, so the school board is the one who dictates, okay, this is how the schools operate. That in our system, that's how that's what the school board does. They say schools are open from this time to that time. They say that the schools are they employ the teacher, and they say the teacher will conduct themselves accordingly. If a teacher is found to be, let's say the worst case scenario, teacher is found to be abusing a student, we don't take that to the Ontario College of Teachers.
Yes, you do.
Well, you do, but
I'm just going to read out some decisions here. So you can go to the Ontario College of Teachers website, and they have the results of disciplinary hearings. So here is, I'm not going to name the name of the person, but I believe they were found guilty in 2002. So it's a long time ago. And against a given teacher, they found that he had committed acts that, having regard to all circumstances, were reasonably regarded by members as disgraceful, dishonorable, or unprofessional, contrary to Ontario regulation, blah, blah. He engaged in contact unbecoming a member, contrary to Ontario regulation, blah, blah, blah. He verbally abused a student, or psychologically, emotionally, blah, blah, blah. So there's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, those are quite vague statements, actually. And it goes on page after page to sort of say, but I mean, that's the kind of discipline. It's like, has this person contravened the standards?
But he loses his license, Roland. He doesn't lose, he loses his license, but his employment is still part of that school board. The school board then has grounds to terminate him or her from employment because you're no longer licensed, and we can't have a non-licensed teacher in. But here's the thing: parents are, regardless of that, the Halton District School Board then has still agreed. Well, we're going to wade into it because they're saying no. We're going to have a meeting on this. If they were completely powerless, they do not have a dress code for teachers. They're completely powerless on this front for whatever reason. That's all they had to say. Say, it's not us. Go take it with the Ontario College of Teachers and deflect it up the ladder. But they didn't, and they took it upon themselves to say, we're going to have multiple meetings on this to hash out a policy. They've taken upon themselves. They're going to write a policy governing this. Is this so? To me, regardless whether or not the Ontario, whoever ultimately, whether it's the ministry, the college, or whatever, I think comes down to no. The board is the employer on record here. They have a right to say these are the standards to which we will employ you. Nobody's going to be employed and say, well, yeah, we're going to take your employment up with this other body over here.
Yeah, but I think
the Ontario College of Teachers, whether you're licensed to teach in this province or not, that's it. They don't say.
But decades and decades of practice have shown that school boards basically have no power to discipline teachers and no power to terminate employment of teachers. because those things have all been collectively bargained one way or the other, which is fine. I mean, I think that's probably as it should be. And it's completely inappropriate for School Board X to have different standards than School Board Y. I mean, why on earth would Halton have a dress code saying you can't wear this, and then Hamilton might have a dress code saying, well, you can wear loon pants and fright wigs.
They do it all the time. Halton Catholic has a dress, like they have uniforms for their students. And
but students is not staff. Students are children.
No, but they have different standards across the gamut. I don't see why one board. I agree. Like there probably should be a uniform code across the entire province. Here's the thing. Maybe there are other boards in this province that do have dress codes for teachers, and we don't hear about it because that's there's not a problem there. We know exactly what's happening.
Maybe this person chose. I don't know. There's been all kinds of rumors. I'm not going to repeat the rumors that have been out there, albeit they've been said on the radio by fairly prominent people. I have no idea the truths or otherwise of this whole thing. I mean, I think it just comes back to the same problem we've seen every time we deal with school board issues, which is the school board, whether it's the Catholic board or the public board or any of the other boards, legislating on things they either shouldn't have the power to legislate on, pride flag, or are unqualified to legislate on, pride flag, or anything else. This is a committee that should be, dealing with things like budgeting and whatever. And sure, they should have, as an employer, they're entitled to have their expectations. I just don't think they're enforceable, because that kind of thing is handled through collective bargaining, through higher level management, and that's as it actually should be. And like, once again, the problem with all these debates is like, why the hell are we even having this discussion at a school board level when the ministry, with a sweep of a pen, could solve the whole thing? Now, fact is that if the ministry starts telling teachers what to do, the unions are going to want to get involved, but that's fine. That's the level that those kind of discussions and debates should happen. The school boards are impotent, in doing stuff that's to do with ethics and general standards and all this kind of nonsense that they really have no business even looking at. It's the farce of the school board system all over again. It's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit on the fence in terms of doing away with school boards or not. I can understand the drastic addressing of powers more to the provincial level. But here we are. I mean, that we are where we are because right now school boards do have the ability to do that, and the ministry is not taking it upon themselves. For that reason, I would dare say, I am puzzled though why, like, the school board should be able to handle this. They really they should.
Well, but I mean, what's the school going to do? When was the last time you heard of a teacher being fired, and who fired them? Because it won't have been the school board, as far as I can see.
Well, I can think of a school. Well, there was a couple times back. I remember right after I graduated from high school, there was an accusation of a teacher there was a story in the paper about a teacher who was, without getting the details, was very inappropriate with students, and they were disciplined. Like, there are ways to discipline. No, we don't. The teachers aren't fired. They're not fired willy-nilly.
That's the Ontario College of Teachers who will have done that.
They would not have fired. It was the board that fired them. The Ontario College of Teachers can only take away their license to teach. They can't. Which is in effect,
but that's in effect firing someone, because once they're licensed, they can no longer teach, right? I don't think it would have been the board that terminated them until after that disciplinary process was done, and that's what we're dealing with. I think. I mean, the whole thing is such a mess. I do think the board handled it wrong at the outset in getting involved. I think people have people understandably expect the board to be the one to kind of lay down the law and say, this is not good enough. I really don't think, even if they have theoretical power, I don't think they have actual power to do anything significant. And that's why you will see ineffectual and vaguely worded statements about appropriate dress.
If that's the case, then the board's still screwing this up because they need to come out and say, we don't have the power to do it. Like everything, the reason why I think it's a story is because the Halton District School Board is a coward to the nth degree on all of this. They're not willing to stand up and say, no, there should be standards of dress for teachers to wear. Now, they've come in and said, no, we're going to put the onus on it. But the Ontario College of Teachers isn't going to, like, what gets me is like, if nobody else is going to stand up and say, yeah, it's our responsibility. We are bad. We didn't put it on there. Then the Halton District School Board should have stepped up and said, you need to give us direction. We're putting this on you. We're going to reference this to you to give us that. Now, they said that they have not done that. They said, no, we're going to hash out a policy of our own. All in all, like the process that they've done has been completely buggered. Like I personally, I'm saying, why not just come up with a policy of their own? Write up a policy. Say, no, we're going to take the student policy that we're doing, and we're going to impose the student dress code on the teachers, which is very reasonable. The student dress code is not prohibitive in any way. And it would still give teachers flexibility to dress to their personality, and it would not. I don't think it would impose any infringement on trans teachers to dress how they feel is appropriate. I think why the Halton District School Board says, fine, we're gonna challenge this. We're gonna put this out there, and if we've overstepped our boundaries, then you have to tell us that we did. If the Ontario College teacher says, no, it's our responsibility. Fine, but you have to do it.
Yeah,
sure. Like getting all the flack, and I'm like, why are you taking all the?
I think what my understanding of the kind of chronology here is that, again, the board is not a unified entity. The board is the professional staff on one side and the trustees on the other. The professional staff didn't want to do anything, and I believe kind of made various statements to the effect that they couldn't do anything. Maybe not. I don't want to put words in their mouth. My understanding was kind of saying, we don't want to touch this. The trustees themselves, trustees being elected and never wanting to miss the opportunity to show off, voted in the majority to sort of force the professional staff to come up with some kind of thing. Well, now you've got staff who don't want to do something, being forced to do something. And so what do? They come up with something. Well, the most positive way of putting it is that and I saw this at the council level as well, that they will bring forward something that is consistent with the law at a minimum. And so if it's weak and ineffectual, it may be because that's the best you can do within the law as they understand it. And it can also be that because they don't like what they've been told to do, they're deliberately undermining it. I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I'm just saying that's something that can happen in other circumstances. I suspect it's a combination of all of the above. So they have this draft thing, which will go to the trustees, and the trustees can then, posture and have their say to no great end. And the conservative ones will say conservative things, and the other ones will say other things, and we'll be no further forward. But this is school board 101, I think it's a stupid business. But if I had to guess, and I don't know, that would be kind of what's gone on here. Is that division between the board, trustees, and the employed administrative people at the board, basically kind of facing off over this as to what's possible and what they actually want to do. And on the whole, I'll probably side with the professionals over the trustees as a rule, but I don't know in this case.
I just suspect that this will be in the end, this is going to turn into it's just going to paint the Halton District School Board in a bad light. It'll be, I mean, you can complain about the system as it is all you want. There's that's open criticism, that's very valid criticism, but the system is what we have. We have to work with what we have. I look at this as, I don't understand why the board has turned this into such an issue. I think that they do have the power to implement a dress code. I think they are tiptoeing around because they are afraid of, they're ultimately afraid of stepping on the rights of transgender teachers to express themselves fully, which is a valid concern. But I also think it's not, but clearly not having one is causing more of a problem. Like you've got to step in and say, this is the boundaries, this is the limits of what we're going to have. Here's the thing. If there is no other board, college of teachers don't have a policy, ministry is not going to impose a policy, none of this is being done, then the Halton District School Board has a chance to be a leader here. And in my opinion, they have dropped this every step of the way. They could have shown that they are a progressive school board. They are one, especially in light of their mirror board and the Catholic system that you and I have talked about with their ongoings with Pride Flag and their issues. The Halton District could have shown that we are the progressive option. We're the not antiquated option in the marketplace of Ontario education. And instead they didn't. They've dropped this ball repeatedly, and they've allowed, in the absence of actual leadership on this, and this is why I'm concerned, is that they've allowed the convoy yahoos to start dictating the terms of this. And in that case, nobody's going to win on this. We're not going to get a clearly defined outcome, or we're going to get a real solution to this. We're just going to get more antics and rhetoric until somebody just says, no, enough's enough. This is the way it is. Take it or leave it. If you don't like it, leave.
I'll say one thing is I'd be surprised if anybody could out progressive the school boards of this province. I mean, is it likely that in a desire to treat a trans member of staff fairly, they would fall over themselves to a ridiculous degree? Yeah, I think that's possible. I don't necessarily think that that's at all the issue here. I think it's a mess of jurisdiction where nobody the power doesn't lie in any one simple place to take the kind of quick decisive action that the public wants to see, either to just get rid of this issue, which would be my preference, and to lay down the obvious, sensible course of action. The way that member of staff dressed on at least one occasion, given the public images, was completely inappropriate. Nobody knows the facts of the events well enough to know if that person is still dressing that way. I mean, we've heard that they are. I don't know if that's true. But I think we're expecting too much of the board. They've been the trustees said go and form a policy. They said we can't form a policy. They said do it anyway. So they come back with a policy going, well, we'd like it if people dressed appropriately. And everybody's going, well, that's a crap policy. It's like, well, no shit, Sherlock. We told you, So they can't win. I think they're caught in a complete no-win situation. And then, as usual, the trustees have waded into something that they're completely incapable of handling properly and made an even bigger hash of it. I wouldn't put that at the doorstep of the staff, though, to be honest.
Maybe not. But I guess what frustrates me as a podcaster covering this is that we've asked the board to come on and say, can you explain this? Let's give us the situation, and they don't want to talk about it. And that's what I think is frustrating, is that they're doing this all in, it's almost like they're doing it in camera. Like they're doing this behind closed doors.
Well, again,
when they open the door and let the public in, the public's like, okay, we want this. And and it's just, okay, you know what? You're going to have to take action at some point. Explain the situation. And that's just, Very sad. On that note, let's just bring this one to an end. Take a break, and we'll be back in a second with the second half of the episode.
You looking to make the most out of this life and optimize your personal wellness? Then check out the Natural Man Podcast. Join me, host Mike C., as we explore all areas of human wellness, physical, mental, and emotional. Learn strategies to optimize your own well-being and be in the driver's seat of your own health. Remember, your doctor works for you. Learn biohacks, neurohacks, ways to improve sleep, and ways to optimize your body and your mind. Check us out on Apple, Spotify, the Fountain app, and at naturalmanpodcast.com.
And we're back. And another story that we've talked about numerous times before on this podcast, but it is not going away, is the saga of the Highway 413. In this weekend on the Toronto Star, they had a big write-up on basically that the environmental assessment for the Highway 413. It's going to cost millions of dollars to do, and possibly have to do over, mostly because this province has spent about $35 million over 16 years assessing this project, and the Ford government tried to push it ahead until somebody realized you actually haven't done a proper assessment of what this highway could do to the land. Which is kind of typical of how this government operates at this point. I think we know this is not surprising that they really, again, those rules and regulations, those pesky rules and regulations that the rest of us have to follow. Well, how dare they get in the way of a good business deal going through? But basically, the article in the Toronto Star was saying that the environmental costs of this have not accurately been analyzed by the province. The federal government has chimed in and said, we're concerned about the carbon emissions that would erupt from the I guess when they say the carbon emissions, they're talking about like once the highway is built and all the cars and trucks are traveling on it, what will the carbon emissions bring to the region? Which they're saying it's going to cost, one estimate was 196,000 tons of greenhouse gases, which is a lot, into the region. Not to mention it would the vulnerable at-risk species that would lose their habitats. Possibly, we'd wipe them out as well from the construction of the highway. Like a lot of this stuff was not calculated by the Ford government when they were pushing ahead of we're going to build this highway. Nobody had done this in-depth analysis. It was very, very sugar-coated and whatnot, mostly because the previous Liberal and Kathleen Wynne governments had started the assessment, but I believe in 2018, the Liberal government basically just said they were told, it's going to cost all this much right from our initial assessment, and the Kathleen Wynne decided, no, we're not doing this. We're going to stop the project right here and there. And so, once that decision was made, no more assessments were done because that would just be a waste of tax dollars.
Are Liberals not wasting tax dollars? Surely some mistake.
Maybe, but I think in this case, the Liberal government said they got the initial look back and they said it's going to cost us this much in terms of environmental impact, and the Wynne government just said, okay, that's too much for us. We're not cool with this. Just stop the project, stop the assessments. We've made our decision. We're not moving forward with it. So let's not all the other stuff that has to come afterwards. Just stop. We don't need to waste our money with that. Decision's made. And then flash forward to Doug Ford coming and says, oh, let's, they did the assessment. Okay, let's move ahead. It's like, no, they did like the first paragraph of the assessment, and you still need to do the rest of it, which right now the Trudeau government is saying we'll do it, and from what they're looking at, it doesn't look good.
Yeah, I mean, this government makes a decision. I mean, it decides what it wants to do, and then it tries to justify it. And all governments, I mean, to be fair to this government, all governments do that to an extent. However, most are they recognize the reality of the situation is that environmental assessments have to be done, because if you don't do them, you've just given a massive tool to your opponents to find reasons to stop you. So I mean, the Ontario Liberals basically, avoided the environmental assessment by having an expert panel say no one wants this road. There's no demand for it. The way the province is growing, don't need it. So let's not build it. And kind of, environmental assessments are a huge and very long, years and years long process. So avoiding that was kind of smart. Ford just wants to build it, and they're not going to give a damn about any of that. They're just going to do it, or they're going to say they're going to do it. I think I'll make a prediction, that I usually don't do, but this is my prediction that I'm 90% confident of, and that is the 413 will never be built, because one way or the other, either through a change of government or by the federal government basically finding a way to stop it, it will be stopped. Because if they have to do the environmental assessment now, that's going to take the rest of this term at least. The environmental assessment will find that it's a disastrous, and it will find all the things that were found before, that it's not needed, that it's absolutely the wrong thing, that there's already a highway that is not used to anything like capacity that exists, and that this is just a way of opening up land to development industry. I mean, obviously they'll find that because it's so obviously what this is all about.
Well, I mean, that's exactly it. I mean, the more actions that this current Ontario government undertakes, the more what you just said becomes blatantly true. Like this government basically is in the pocket of big business and their interests. Like, no, this is a highway that nobody asked for. Nobody
except the developers.
Except
they are
the
the
developers.
only entity. Yeah,
you're the only ones who've been pushing for this. Nobody else has said, we really need relief off. I mean, everybody says we need relief, and we need relief off congestion on our highways. But nobody said, let's build a highway. I mean, I'm looking at a map of it right now. I'm like, you build this highway, I don't know who honestly would use it. I really don't. Like, I don't know. Like, I have no purpose to take this 413 anywhere, because you go up and around Brampton, up around Vaughan, and you hook up to the 400. Maybe if I'm going up to Muskoka, it might save maybe a couple minutes off my route.
Well, I guess people in Mississauga going up to cottage country might appreciate it. But yeah, well, until you build the houses, it has no function until the developers get their hands on it.
Right.
Then it will have lots of function, because like the 401. But that's not how we're meant to be building roads anymore. That's putting the cart before the horse. You're putting the cart there and then saying, well, we better go and buy a horse then, which in this case is a gazillion single family homes. If that's not kind of a weird metaphor there, but you get what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, in the Toronto Star article, this is something you and I were talking about just before we logged on here. They have two individuals. One basically says what we just said. Eric Miller, research director for the University of Toronto, who studies travel modeling groups, basically says it's just bad policy. It's a development play. We've seen this with the Greenbelt announcement as well. The only people who benefit from this are the developers who are making a whack of money with low density suburban housing who own this land. Contrast that with Murtaza Haider, who's a professor of data science and real estate management at Toronto Metropolitan University. Which says the region has increased significantly in population over the past 4 decades, which ultimately requires an increase in the expansion of infrastructure, he said in an email to the Star. Public transit is neither efficient nor reliable in parts of the region where this highway will be passing through. And yeah, he's right, but I'd say this is what this entire argument is what the 407 was supposed to alleviate. 30, 25, 20 to 30 years ago. I can't remember exactly when the 407 was built, but this is the exact term. Oh, it's going to alleviate all the traffic and all the congestion on the 401. We build that, and the 401 you'll just sail on through. Flash forward 30 years, folks, that ain't the case. Probably because the 407 costs a fortune to drive on. So, that's a big caveat that nobody wants to mention. But, maybe address that issue and take out that problem. And we've got you might be able to really solve the traffic on the 401 instead of let's just build another, and like, we can't just have the same solution of, we have traffic on our highways. Let's just build another highway. Okay. So what happens when the 413 gets backed up with congestion? What are we going to do then?
Yeah. I mean, it's brain dead. The comment that, the parts where this road goes through don't have good transport, I can tell you why that is. No one lives there.
Yes, I know.
It's rural Ontario.
I know. That's the other thing. I mean, if you look at the map, you have
it's literally nothing
south of it, but you're right. Like to the north of it, there's nothing there. It's all farmland. Which
I can't see. If you lived in Brampton, when they built the houses, but when they built the houses, they'll also bring in bus routes and they'll bring in all those other things, or they should do. This is a road which has no purpose until the houses are built. It basically runs through the vast majority of Ontario's remaining white belt, which for the last 20 years we've been saying we should avoid building on at all costs, because we should be looking at increased density instead. I can't even bother going through the arguments of induced demands. Is there anybody listening to this podcast who doesn't know the arguments of induced demand already? If you don't understand the idea of induced demands, go and look at the 401 and count the lanes and say, if you add another 2 lanes to it, is it going to fix the problem? No, of course not. Bodies take up transport to the level of capacity available, unless they're stopped by something else like extortionate fees.
Here's my question with the 413, because right now, in Toronto, a big problem that downtown businesses are facing, and this is happening across the 905, is post-COVID, they're seeing less and less people coming into their downtown cores, especially in Toronto. People are saying, no, after COVID, I am working from home from now on. I do not want to get on the GO train. I do not want to get on the 401, the 403, the QEW, and commute into my job. I want to work at home. Nobody's like the assessments that we're facing are, and all the data that we've accumulated, like this last gentleman that we've accumulated to say, we need this highway. Has nobody said like what exactly is the commute, or how many people are coming into the downtown core? Like building a highway that goes around the north of the 905, north of the GTA, because we have so much traffic. It's like, do we now? Like, I don't know. I have not been on a highway. I don't commute anymore. I have no idea. And I suspect there's a good number of good numbers of us who are like-minded.
I mean, the roads are still very busy. Whether total traffic is down at all, I don't know. I mean, I do think there are, I think we can all speak to the fact that there is a lot more working from home going on, but most people still have a mixture of at home and in the office work. And there's obviously millions of people who don't have a choice and have to go somewhere to do their job. But this goes against everything that intelligent design. No, that's not a phrase I want to use.
That's the wrong issue. Wrong topic.
Intelligent thinkers, planners, scientists have all said for decades and decades now, the argument back in the day was we should have built the Spadina Expressway, and now we'd have a a third ugly road to go along with the Don Valley Parkway and the Gardiner, when, you cannot tell me that Toronto wouldn't be just as successful but a far more beautiful city if none of those roads had been built. And other means of getting people around have been investigated instead. It's not even like it's cheap. I mean, how many billions of dollars are we talking about for this thing? Think what you could build by way of public transport with that kind of amount. 14. Okay, well, I'm trying to find the it's something like 13 billion, isn't it? Something.
Yeah, I think that's the last estimate I've heard is about 13 billion.
Yeah. Stand to be corrected, but it's a huge number for a road. Which basically, the primary thing that would do is that every planning meeting in the cities of Vaughan and Markham and Milton, when the developers turn up, they say, "Well, hey, we've got this road now. We've got all this infrastructure. We should really be building next to infrastructure, because that's the wise and sensible thing to do." Ignoring the fact that if the infrastructure wasn't there, you wouldn't have that argument. I mean, it's all a fucking con, the way this province works from beginning to end. And I can just imagine the meetings now with the frankly slimy and dishonest arguments that get taken to town councils when people are making arguments for building, and then are taken to guess where, the Ontario Municipal Board, the Ontario Planning Appeals Tribunal, or whatever the frig it's called. It's like they're creating an excuse to build, basically, at the cost of $13 billion. And give $13 billion to new rail links or light rail projects or God damn it, healthcare. I mean, Jesus, can you imagine that kind of sum put into healthcare? It's transformative amounts of money,
Well, that's the thing. That $13 billion put into healthcare, put into our schools, put into. You're right. Like, what if they just hand over $3 billion of that, handed over to the cities in the 905 to make up for the lack of development charges that they'll be recuperating now,
or to invest in better bus services to free up the ridiculous non-competitive bus system we have here.
Bus services, better intensification downtown, better parks and amenities. Like there's a ton of more creative ways you could be spending this money rather than the quick, easy, spend $13 billion on a wasted highway so that a handful of already billionaire developers can profit off of land that is essentially, I don't want to say useless, but I mean, it's there. It's meant to be, carbon sink. It's meant to be farmland. It's meant to be anything other than just another sprawl for a McMansion for them to sell for a bottom line in that particular fiscal year. This is what we're facing here ultimately is a lack of imagination, which I'm not surprised on part of this government. I mean, this government has no imagination in terms of development, not development, in terms of policy or in terms of governance of this province. It's a sad, pathetic state of affairs, I'm afraid. And the final note is, I'll just quickly repeat. I don't think it's going to be built, but I would say to environmentalists listening to this to look at the career of Daniel Mark Hooper, a British environmentalist from the UK, better known by the name Swampy, who in the 1990s got evicted from various tunnels that he had dug in an attempt to stop a bypass, and basically how successful a certain amount of civil disobedience was at stopping road development in the UK. Just saying, I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying civil disobedience works, man. Sometimes I don't think we need to do that. I think like this. Here's the thing: this government, as much as they talk about all these plans, they do have a tendency of just screwing it up. Like I maybe in the end we're just tooting our own horn because we got nothing better to do. But I do wonder, will this government actually be able to follow through on this plan? Only because they do not have a history of success on anything. I'm trying to think of a success story, and I'm honestly drawing a blank. Even the best stuff that they were hoping to pull off has been mired in accusations, or just it's just mucked about. So
I think this will become it has to become the battleground where either governments are stopped from this ridiculous idea that you just build roads forever, or not. But I'm confident it will never be built. That would be my guess. Could be wrong, but we'll see.
Time will tell. All right, folks, that's it for this week, or for this Tuesday. We'll see you on Thursday. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's it for this episode of the 905er. Thank you for listening. As always, you can send us your feedback, thoughts, and concerns, or ideas for future episodes to our email, info@905er.ca. We'd love to hear from you. You can help us keep the 905er going by financially supporting us through Patreon as well as PayPal. Visit us at 905er.ca and click on the support tab. As well, links are in the show notes for your convenience. Lastly, you can find us on social media. Search for _905er on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So long for now. See you next time.